Welcome to the dungeon. Dum dum dum. This is different. It is different. And I would like to introduce my new co host for the next 10 episodes, Miss Chereese La-Vonne.
Hi, Sheedia. Hi,
What's up?
I'm good. I am excited. When you said for the next 10 episodes, I was like, wow, this is a real commitment. But
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Yes. I know you are. And it's going to be exciting diving deep into different conversations for 10 episodes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we already have great communication, conversation. So I'm excited about capturing it. There have been so many times that we've been talking, like even our conversation yesterday.
Yeah.
When I was thinking, man, this is just gold.
It needs to be shared. It needs to be shared. So this is kind of like season 2, let's say, or chapter 2 of the dungeon. And so if you haven't been listening and you're here for the first time, it would be great if you go back to season 1 because that was really good. But the dungeon is all about talking about the things in and around the Caribbean that people don't often talk about, the stories and the viewpoints that are taboo or just not spoken about enough. And so this is what the podcast is. How would you describe the podcast? Because you've listened to previous episodes.
I mean, I guess just listening to the name as well, I describe it as all the things that we sort of lock away. And when company is coming over, you sort of just shove it down the stairs, like in the basement, and lock it and hope nobody goes down there. And I also would describe it as the process of finding the treasure in those things. So the process of the shifting, this podcast is a process of shifting viewpoints on what some people may label as dirty or bad or taboo, as you said, and actually kind of dusting it off, blowing off the dust, shining it a little, and seeing it for the treasure that it is.
Yeah. That is a beautiful explanation. And I love allowing people to put things into their own words, right? Because once you do that, you get different viewpoints of different things. And that's, again, also what the podcast is about.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Chereese, how would you introduce yourself?
Oh, wow. I was
in layman's No. In layman's terms, people are going to get to know you in 10 episodes. Like, they don't need to know everything right now.
That's just the Virgo public speaking coach side of myself that's like, oh, I should have had a perfect introduction. Well, I would describe myself first and foremost as a free spirit and a queer person. And I want to talk a little bit about what that means. When I say free spirit, I'm a spirit that's free, meaning I understand that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And one of the most important thing for me is to understand my spirituality and to channel everything I do through that.
Yeah.
Whether I'm creating designs because I'm a designer, whether I'm coaching clients because I'm a public speaking coach, if it's creating retreats, or if it's just how I cook my meals and spend my days. I want to do that first and foremost in alignment with my spirit, letting the spirit then materialize into whatever is solid material. So that's a free spirit side. And it also said I'm a queer person. And nowadays the word queer relates to people who are part of the LGBTQ community. I so happen to identify in that way, but that's not really what the word queer means to me. I love that that's the use of the word queer. For me, the use of the word queer is going back to before it was associated positively with people who deviate from the norms. And it's just someone who's strange. And strange sounds unique. And I think if we all allow ourselves naturally strange, even flowers on the same bush don't all look the same. They're all strange. They all have different formations or flaws, if you want to call it, or beauty marks that are different. And so I'm a person who allows my queerness, my strangeness, my individuality to be expressed and to see it as part of the lovely tapestry of what it means to be human. So I'm a free spirit who loves to be in a variety of who you want.
Love that. Love that. My siblings, sometimes they still do. They used to always say, "Oh, Sheedia's a weirdo," or they'll say, "Yeah." They used to say I'm a weirdo, especially when I was in high school around that time, and I would always say, "Oh no, I'm not a weirdo. I'm special and unique." Um, so that was like my interpretation of it. But I think it's beautiful when we own that, right? I think we're all weirdos or queer in our own way.
Yeah, exactly.
But because of what society tells us we need to be, and because of what's normal and what's not normal, we've chosen to not be ourselves, which then makes us not weird, and then makes people look alike and talk alike and move alike and think alike. And that's herd mentality, you know?
That's definitely herd mentality. And I do want to say, though, that I think there is room for the categorization of ourselves. You know, sometimes when we want to introduce ourselves, we might stay away from titles like job titles and things like that. And I've certainly done that because I like to say I'm not a human doing or a human being. But I also think that even in how we define ourselves, whether or not we're individually separate, they're kind of subsets that can help people to understand who we are as well. So I wanted to touch on some of the subsets of how I define myself outside of my essence, which is what I just defined. Some of the subsets are I'm Jamaican. I was born and raised in Jamaica. I identify as a woman. My pronouns are she, her. I studied architecture as my main degree. I love everything design. And I think the thing that design gives me is the ability to look for patterns. And I apply that looking for patterns and applying patterns, not just in my design work, but also in just the way I design my life. And I'm a strong believer that we are the conscious co-creators of our life experiences. And then currently, right now, I do express myself in the world as a communication coach. And I think that's important to share because I don't just do it as a job. It is a part of my mission. I feel like if we are going to shift the world in the direction of love and fraternity and union with each other and union with nature, then the people who have those ideas and are living by those concepts need to have the skill to communicate that with others. And so I like to share that current quote unquote job title, but in the context of it being in alignment with my essential self as well. A free spirit who is trying to unlock other people's individuality through supporting them in their communication and public speaking skills.
Yes. I love the importance of that because I think a lot of people that are different or queer, let's use that word again, they can't communicate that properly. And so other people then can't identify and say, oh, I agree with you or I disagree with you. It's more so of, oh, okay. And I've noticed that even with like the title that I've brought on, Freedom Alchemist. And there's a certain type of people that are like, wow, that's so cool. And then there's a certain type of people that are just like crickets. They don't get it, right? And so I always explain it. And my easy explanation of it is I help people experience more freedom by challenging the norms, right? And that goes into various aspects. I love looking at the business side of things because I'm really good at that. But I do a holistic approach. So I moved away from the business coaching side of things into a more open way of thinking, because a lot of times the reason why people don't succeed in business has nothing to do with their abilities in regards to business. It has to do with so much more. Like for me, something that I've been working on that's made a huge difference in my life, and I've talked a lot about that in season 1, and I haven't talked about what difference it made in my life, but I have talked about the subject, and that is being aware of the transatlantic slavery descendant that I am, right? Both from the enslaver side of things and the enslaved side of things. And so once I became more aware of that, things started shifting. And that is also why I this podcast is so near and dear to my heart, because it allowed me to embrace the Caribbean side of me, right? And once I embraced that, now I know who I am. And once you know who you are, ain't nobody can stop you.
You know, it's a big difference because you are it. It's interesting you use the word know. This morning I had a whole meditation about the difference between knowing and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
When you know something, you're one with it. Even if you and I came from the biblical context, so they say, I don't know, Adam knew Eve, and they tell you, oh, that meant they had sex, right? Whatever it is. But we understand that knowing, and I do think if you go to the history of the word, is about knowing is being one with. You know it because you are it.
Mm-hmm.
You know it because you are it. When you understand yourself, this is now going to a poetic kind of point of view, and I don't necessarily have any linguistic backative here, but I imagine poetically, you're standing under something which then makes you separate from it, right? So if you say, oh, I'm trying to understand myself, it's like I'm trying to stand under myself so I can see what I am. But then you're separating yourself from yourself. When you are yourself, when you embody with yourself, when you be yourself, that is the way that you can be whatever you're here to be. But if you're always trying to conceptualize what you are, I mean, the concept helps you. The concept does help us. It does help us to connect to what we are. But we have to be what we are. You know, we have to be what we are. And in the being of who you are, you're unstoppable. Why are you unstoppable? Because the way I see things is there's a natural order to life. I think there's a natural order to nature, natural order. Life organizes us. And the impulses that I have, I believe, are part of the natural organization of life itself. So when I am one with myself and I let my impulses lead me, I am therefore in line with nature, and who knows what's the ripple effect of how I am or what I'm doing. And so that you do become an unstoppable force because you become one with nature, with natural order. And who can stop nature?
Yeah.
Who?
Nobody. And even the people that have tried, you know, we've been destroying nature for centuries.
Nature will stop us.
Yes.
Before we fully destroy. I mean,
yes.
Nature will bounce back.
Yeah.
Nature will bounce back. Nature will like, okay, get these fucking idiots off of me. Like some ticks. Ugh, get them off.
Shake it off.
No. Yeah. Now let me come back.
That's true. That's true. And that reminds me something that Andy used to always tell me is like, you can think of something, you can believe something, and you can know something, right? If I think, let's say we both identify as women, right? So if I think I'm a woman, then maybe I'm a woman, maybe I'm not a woman. But if I believe it, now it's a next level, right? I believe that I am a woman, therefore I do this and this and this. But once you know it, there's no longer space for something else. There's no longer space of doubt. For doubt, there's no, because when you start believing something, you can stop believing it. You can change your beliefs. You can be informed of something else and you can change it. But once you know it, it is.
Yeah.
I am that I am, you know?
I am that I am, exactly. And the beliefs doesn't change what is. This is something that, as much as I am a communication specialist, advocate, geek, this is something that I always try to point out as a limitation of language. Language is only ever pointing to the reality. Language is never the reality. Beliefs are only ever pointing to a reality. And you're saying, I choose to interpret that reality as this thing. What you choose to interpret it as doesn't really change what it is. And so we have to, I think, always walk with a level of humility with how we talk about things, with how we believe things. Our beliefs should be flexible because they're only ever pointing to a reality that is. It's not the thing itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way that I would kind of describe what you said is the beliefs are looking at it from a vantage point. And let's say you have a book, right? You have the front cover and the back cover. And let's say the front cover is black, the back cover is red, right? If you're coming at it from the front cover vantage point, you only see, like straight from the front, you only see black, right? There's nothing else. All you see is black. If you come from it from the back side, all you see is red. So you believe that there's nothing beyond that but black or red, depending on which side you come from. But if you come from the vantage point of like more zoomed out, where you could see the entire book, now you know that it's a book. It's not just blackness or redness. It's a book. And there's so much in between the back and the front cover, right? There's so much information in there that you would have never known existed.
That's just, you're saying that and I'm actually feeling tingled because it's reminding me of how I describe God and religion to a friend. I remember it very distinctly, the conversation. I was in a car with a friend driving up the hillside in Kingston, heading to Irishtown to hang out. Or I don't remember where we were going, but we're going up the mountainside and we were stuck in traffic and we're having a heated debate. I was 25 about religion and God. And this was at a time when I had probably just started leaving church. So I think I was still going to church, but I was definitely questioning if it fit what I was feeling of life itself. And I remember, I think this was inspired by reading the book, The Lifeless Pie, which in The Lifeless Pie, the main character, the thing that struck out to me was he was a small Indian boy who grew up in a town that had Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity. And he would hop around between the three temples for each religion. And in his perspective, he couldn't understand why everybody was dividing themselves because they were saying the same thing. And I remember that making me think of religion as, just imagine God, whatever we reference as God, if it's reality, if it's life, if it's the thing that we cannot name, but or whatever it is, life. Let's just call life, because we're all living life, right?
Yeah.
If we're all trying to understand life, Christians are just seeing it from here, assuming that there isn't too much corruption. So let's forget the corrupted part of things where I am the only one who knows has come in. Let's forget that. And let's look at the purity of religion. I think religion in its purest form is a study of life itself and an explanation of life from your perspective. However, everybody has a different vantage point, as you're saying. And so it's like this one big thing, but I just got this little speck of vantage point. And yes, from that little tiny peephole, I can see what I see and it's real. That truth is true. But someone else can see something else and it can also be real. Even if it may seem to contradict in some way what I see, it can also be real. And that's why, I use and felt comfortable using the terminology of my truth versus absolute truth. My truth is my understanding. My truth is my belief system. Absolute truth is something unknowable and that I'm only ever gonna keep acercar in Spanish. Getting closer to. Yeah. Getting closer to. Liz Violet's. I don't know if there's an exact English translation for that word. I often can't find the English translation for that word. But yeah, getting closer.
Approaching, right?
Approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll be approach.
But approaching doesn't, because acercar has the getting closer to in it.
Yeah, it feels like something like you're
Yeah.
you're becoming one with probably.
Yeah.
Approaching is also different. Approaching could be like maybe by the time you get there, it doesn't really want you. You know what I mean? Like, but acercar kind of feels like, yeah, come be with me.
Yeah. Yeah. We went deep real quick, right? And that is us. That is us.
Sorry.
No, not sorry at all. But I want to go back to like how we met. Because I think the reason why I chose you to be the co-host for this second season has a lot to do with the relationship that we have. So we met online in my group where I was, no, you found my website and I was doing Voxer coaching, and then you ended up in my group. That's where I saw you the first time. And then I started following you, and you were sharing a lot about leaving the church and what that means for you and your new spiritual path, right? And from the way you were expressing it, I could understand that your version of Christianity was very close to my experience with Christianity, which now I will say is very much fundamentalist Christianity, you know, where it's like heavy into how you should wear, what you should wear, who you should interact with, how you should interact with those people, living fully according to the Bible, but it's pretty much one vantage point of the Bible, and the leaders in the church being the ones that have the end all, say all, and like all that stuff. And so that is what drew me to you. And it was beautiful to me seeing another Caribbean woman expressing herself that way. Now, you are really good at communicating, so you were communicating these concepts perfectly. But in addition to that, right, like that's what you were saying, both written and in videos. But the way you were showing up visually was very interesting too, right? Like for those just listening, not seeing, we haven't decided if we're sharing the video yet or not, but we will for sure like put a picture or something. But Chereese is currently, you know, rocking an afro. She has tattoos. She has a nose ring. She is very beautiful. But in addition to that, on her Facebook, because I was only following you on Facebook at that time, you were sharing yourself as art, really. That's the best way I can express it. You know, there were pictures that are naked, but it wasn't vulgar nakedness as in, oh my God, she's trying to get attention, or trying to get a man, or trying to get somebody to notice her. It wasn't that vibe at all. It was you, using your body as art. And not only was that amazing and beautiful to see from my perspective, knowing your background and all that, and from the Caribbean, but it's also a Black woman expressing herself that way, which we're getting to that place where we see that more and more, Black women as art, the beauty of Black women, that highlighted in mainstream media and stuff like that. But it's still not enough. And I've brought you on here, one, because we're fun to talk to. Like, we've already had a great conversation without like doing the full intro, which doesn't matter. But on the other hand, I feel like people need to see that. You are not
normal.
I feel like, no. I feel like you embody the essence of who you are, including the Caribbean. but not many people fully embody that. And I'm not going to say that in a judgmental way, right? I'm saying that in a space of, one, because of historical trauma and so much that we carry, sometimes there's just no space to even start thinking about being authentic. Like, if you're in survival mode, there is no space to tap into that luxury, right? I'll say this, there's always a way, but if you don't consciously choose it and you stay in survival mode, you won't get there. And I also feel like we all need that space to express ourselves that way. And so I want you being here, not that you're going to preach to people or anything, but your essence to show through, and then be able to activate that essence in other people. Like, even if you're in that survival mode and you don't have all the time in the world, listening to this will start activating that, because you activate that within me, you know? And so it's beautiful what's going to come out of this. I'm excited for what's going to come out of this.
Wow. Well, thank you for just that reflection of how you see me.
Yeah.
And a little bit of introduction of me to the guests, I think, or to the listeners. I think your words are beautiful and accurate. And it's so funny how you said activate, because I actually have it on my whiteboard over here. I was writing, I can talk about myself as a coach, as an authenticity activator, because I realize that is even just with my friends, that is what I do. And I'm not saying this, I came out of the womb saying, I'm going to activate authenticity. It's more like I'm just looking at the effect I naturally tend to have on people. And it's what they've said to me. So I'm in alignment with you on that. And something interesting came to mind when you're talking about, showing my body as art with some of my nude photography that I've shared online. It's so interesting how the essence of a thing can shine through, and sometimes we don't realize it. So for me, that photo shoot was the most natural thing. It was actually for my 33rd birthday. I tried to do take photos for my birthdays. And I had a friend that was in Mexico at the time, Querétaro, Mexico. And I had a friend who was a photographer who had done my photos the year before. And I asked him to come and take my photos again in exchange for English classes. So he came. But when he came, I had just showered. I had not thought about what theme I was going to have for this photo shoot. I didn't know what I was going to wear. I had a towel on my head. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do it like this. And so the photo shoot really was a nude shoot, because when he arrived, that was the state of living my life that I was in. And for me, to hear you talk about just using my body as art, it's more than that. It's my life as art. He literally captured just that moment in my life. Like, I did not prepare for that photo shoot. There's no makeup. I was smoking a spliff. There's a towel on my head. There was no clothes, because when he arrived, that was a situation.
It is what it is.
And I do try to live my life with a certain level of intentionality always, but there's also space and room for flow. And I try to think of my work, not my work, I try to think about the way I show up in life as art itself. Like, I am always in every moment of the day exploring the art and joy of living. And when I capture things like in photos, that's what I want to capture, the art of living. And so I'm glad that I think that translated in some way where you saw the art,
Yeah.
And also my photographer friend is amazing. His name is Juan Luis of Ono Portraits. He's amazing. So,
Love it. I love it. And I want to come back to the word activate, right? I see that word as, on one side, it is activation. On the other side, it's a trigger. Every time something Because the same thing can activate you or it can trigger you.
I use the word in the same way, actually. Even when I talk to like my partner about things that trigger me, I say, oh, I'm feeling activated right now.
Yes. And I see it as, if I choose to use that trigger to activate a positive part of me or whatever part of me that I want and use it a little bit more consciously, I see that as an activation. Versus if it is a trigger that gets me completely out of control and I start to go in a very negative space because of it, then I see it as a trigger. And I love to distinguish those two within myself, because for me, I would like to use all triggers, like alchemize all triggers into activations. And even if I was triggered and I was fully out of control and I got mad or not only mad, I fell in love in a crazy way that it was out of control, because that's another out of control scenario that can happen. I want to bring myself back and say, okay, what part of it did it activate and what lessons can I get out of that?
I think that's so interesting how you just use the word activation to be either, positive, constructive, or trigger destructive in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. I actually think triggers are good. I think triggers challenge things that could be beneficial to look at and probably beneficial to destroy. So you get triggered because there's a particular idea that is looking for either recognition or reconstruction. That's what I think you get triggered to do. And when I say even I activate someone, I loved when you say that, because I've had to learn not to take it personally when people are shitty to me sometimes, because I activate them. So naturally, I am irreverent in a lot of ways. I'm very reverent and very irreverent at the same time. I'm very reverent of nature and of spirituality and of my body and of being good with other humans. I bring reverence in that. But I'm irreverent of bullshit rules about modesty and manners, to the degree that's not about actually caring about humans, just stuff that's about pomp and pageantry. I'm a little bit irreverent in that case, which is funny because I've been in a pageant.
Yeah, I thought about that as you said it.
Well, yeah, I tried to study it, but I was like, okay, I mean, this is interesting, but it's also let's not take it too seriously, people. It's fun, it's cool, enjoy it, but it's not the crux of life. And I can be irreverent in that way, and that can activate people to anger, right? My irreverence can activate people to discomfort. I just don't have to take that personally. It activates them. Someone else might be activated to action, activated to adjusting who they are and how they express. I also don't necessarily have to take that personally. Whatever they do with activation is their business. I just know that my nature is to go, ping, something's different here. I know that. I mean, I'm not trying to do it. I just am. It's just what I am. It's just what I am.
Yeah. You're right. You're a walking activation.
I like to imagine that we all are. I like to imagine, I see us as just everybody's just a sense of vibrationary center, and we're all ping-ponging off of each other, adjusting our vibration. And the degree to which you know how to hold your core vibration is the degree to which you're not changed beyond, the essence of who you are, but go around activating each other. And that's why, watch your circle is really important. Who you're around, who you talk to, the things you take in, because it shifts your vibe, and your vibe shifts your tribe. I just said that because it rhymes, but it's true.
Yeah.
Your tribe shifts your vibe, and your vibe determines your tribe, and vice versa, chicken and egg.
There's so many ways I want to react to all the things you just said. I'm going to go this way. We're going from this vantage point. Before we started recording, you mentioned something about diversity. And I don't know exactly what you said. I don't remember the exact words, but I'm saying the way that I see it is diversity helps with growth and progress, right? And so because you are authentically you, it challenges other people to start seeing what they actually believe in. And I'm actually going to invite people that even if you're triggered in this series that we're going to bring, to look at why you're triggered and use that as an activation. If that means that you stand for completely the opposite of what Chereese or I might stand for, own that shit unapologetically. Because I think once we know where our boundaries are, where our values lie, what we disagree with, that clarity brings so much power. It allows you to, it gives you choice, right? It gives you the choice to say, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with that, which then allows you to have freedom, because there is no freedom without choice. So, and another thing that's coming up too is a conversation. I have a friend that is a girlfriend that's very similar to my partner, my boyfriend, right? Like they have a very similar personality. And they've both had this conversation with me at some point that they're like, why do you say things that are like so out of this world? You know, people don't agree with you. You know, they're going to have something to say about it. Why do you still say it? And I'm like, at that time, because this is for sure like maybe 8 years ago-ish. At that time, I said, it gives me satisfaction to see people uncomfortable. That was the wording that I had back then, right? But looking at the wording now, and this is where the communication that we talked about earlier comes in again, is now I just say I activate people. And I find joy in activating people. Back then, I just thought that I was like triggering people and making them uncomfortable. Now I see it as that's power, because I bring diversity. I definitely don't bring normal shit.
Mm-hmm.
I bring diversity, and that then activates people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the diversity, I mean, I don't really know exactly how Mother Nature works, but I was originally talking to you about it in the context of biodiversity and biofeminism, which I went down a rabbit hole this morning, listening to a Dr. Vandana Shiva. And the point is that, at least in nature, which is reflected in many other contexts, like in your context of between humans, diversity knows how to regulate itself, regulate its climate and its temperature for the evolution of life. And so your activation of people in whatever way, triggering and making them uncomfortable or whatever, just by showing up as yourself, you are creating circumstances for growth. You are creating and even if it's by contrast, I love how you said, you know, if anybody listening to this doesn't agree with what we're saying, to be unapologetic about that. I love how you said that, because it's not just things that we agree with that help us to get clarity. It's also things that we don't agree with that help us to get clarity. And my thing is, we can have differing viewpoints, and the fact that mine is so different from yours can make yours even stronger, and that's okay. The challenge becomes when we use ideas as a way for forced separation. Like, I would love to see how we can always think, okay, we have different ideas, but how do we still coexist? And that coexistence may mean that there is some level of physical, emotional, mental distance between us, or it may not. We may still be able to be close in proximity. Perhaps we just choose different things to talk about, or whatever it is, or even the same thing. But if we're able to self-regulate enough where your difference doesn't make me feel like I'm losing myself, then we have an opportunity to, I think, really from a place of open-mindedness, sort through ideas and determine, okay, this sticks, this doesn't stick. Yeah. And trust that it all works out. It's not that serious again at the end of the day. Like, you know, we're all in here like talking about ideas. We're all going dead, baby. If we're one of us, I go freaking dead. We're going to one cemetery. Well, I'm not going to a cemetery because I have an idea that I don't think we need to have space for human bodies. Like that's if it's not going back to the earth. So I don't want to be in a cemetery. I want to either be put in the earth itself or burnt and maybe use my organs for science or something. But the point is we're all returning to the nothingness from where we came. So while we're here, yes, let's play with ideas. Let's play with how should life be? Let's make, you know, the optimum experience that we can, but also at the same time not take it so seriously that we start to create pain and suffering for ourselves and others.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a balance there, right? And there's boundaries there that, because if the boundary is you just communicated part of your boundary, right? That you're not creating pain for yourself and others. That limits you in a certain way, but it also gives you so much clarity as in, okay, I want to do, like, you could totally have fun and go rob a bank right now, but that creates possible pain for you depending on how great you are at robbing banks. And it definitely will create pain for the people in the bank that experience that trauma in somebody's pockets, even though the banks are like insured a million times over. So yeah, that's beautiful. And I feel like that is a beautiful place to end this episode. Like, set with all that. We're going to be back for another one. We would love to hear your feedback. Spotify is a place you can do that. You can, it's a beautiful, you could also, if you listen on YouTube, you can leave a comment there. And if not, contact us. I'm at Hey Sheedia. That is HEYSHEEDIA on all social medias. And you are?
Well, you should just contact Sheedia because I sometimes disappear from social media.
Yes, don't contact Chereese. Say, hey,
No.
Sheedia, this is for Chereese.
No, I'm Chereese La-Vonne on most places as well. That's CHEREESE LAVONNE. Right now, I frequent Spotify and YouTube, Instagram on and off. You can also find me at Adventure in Authenticity. So that's me. That's me.
That's you. And that's that. We would love to see you on the next episode. We're going to continue this conversation. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for having me, Sheena. I'm really excited for the rest of the series.
Me too.